you feel all alone in this world and there's nobody to count your tears, just remember, no matter where you are, Allah knows. Allah knows. When you're carrying a monster load and you wonder how far you can go, with every step on that road that you take, Allah knows. Allah knows. No matter what, inside or out, there's one thing of which there's no doubt. Allah knows. Allah knows. And whatever lies in the heavens and the heavens, every star in this whole universe, Allah knows. Allah knows. When you find that special someone, feel your whole life has barely begun.
One more time.
You can walk on the moon, shout it to everyone. Allah
So start our program with the recitation of Quran. I will request Imran to come forward and please recite the surah.
when you gaze with
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. صلوات.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Today we have a very special guest from San Ramon Police Department. Please welcome to Brother Abbass Hussain with a loud salawat. They help communities in many ways, responding to trouble caused to accidents of any nature. They will help us to catch the criminals. They go to the court to testify against the criminals. And they will also testify for the innocent peoples. And let me say, they are smart, mashallah. They are capable of making quick decisions. They are able to resolve the problems. They know how to implement the law. They have a good leadership quality. And also they have a good people skills. They also know how to use the technological tools. And they are involved with the communities, and most of us probably don't know. And the list is very long. And I will not take any more time, and I will ask Brother Abbass to come forward and take the mic.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
So I don't want you guys to fall asleep, okay? So this is gonna be a little bit of an interactive program. We're gonna talk a little bit, and then after that I'm gonna show you my car outside, okay? And show you some of my equipment, all right? So I want you guys to participate. Participation counts today, okay? I want all the teachers to take note of their students and for participation, all right? First of all, I'd like to thank Jafar Bai, the ICZ administration here in Malasa for inviting me, okay? Thank you for making this happen. This is very important, I think, for you guys to meet members of the public safety community in your cities, okay? Now, I work for the San Ramon Police Department, but the job that I do is almost identical to the job that police officers do pretty much in every city. It doesn't matter. Pleasanton, Dublin, San Ramon, Walnut Creek, wherever you live, it's all the same art that we do, okay? It's the same type of work. Just uniforms might be different, the police cars might be different, but the laws in the state of California apply to all police officers, okay? So that's what we do, is we work under the laws in the state of California, all right? So let me ask you a question. I'm gonna ask you guys, I know what I do, but I wanna ask you, what do you think that police officers do? Yes? Make the city that I work in a better place. Good answer. But how do I do that? Do I do landscaping and try to make it look nicer? Catch the bad guys. Yeah, we definitely try to do that. Okay, so when people commit criminal violations, I go look for those guys and I arrest them, right? That's one way I make the city a safer place? Yes. What's your name? Fizza, go ahead.
Protect the city.
Okay, I protect the city. From what, though?
Accidents.
Okay.
Bad
Okay, okay, so accidents, traffic safety, and bad guys are criminal violations, for example, right? Okay. Yes, what's your name?
Riza?
Ali Raza?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So if we see some people that is trying to act like strangers, we stay away from them.
That if we see strangers, we stay away from them so that they can't hurt us?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So we also are part of that effort where we teach children how to recognize the dangers around them, right? So in all these different ways, I mean, what do they show on TV? Police officers primarily running after bad guys, right? Getting into high-speed car chases, shooting at people, right? Okay, but that's on TV. That's not what we do. That is part of our job, but that's only a very small percentage of what we do. What we do the majority of our time is we spend time with our community to understand the problems that our community faces, and then we build a game plan to try to address those problems. We handle criminal violations. We handle emergencies, natural disasters, medical emergencies, mental health emergencies, and we're also there to support a variety of services that your city provides. It can be riot control or disaster control or anything. Police officers, you know, even though people think of us as just arresting the bad guys, we actually do a lot more than that. In fact, there is no limit to our job description. It's just an open book. It just says, as needed. Police officers shall respond and assist the community as needed. So even things that we don't even know are affecting us as a community, police officers can get involved and then determine, you know, how we're going to help. So it's not limited to just catching bad guys and then we walk away. We do whatever we have to do to make people safer. Okay? Let's hear some more ideas. Yes? Ismail.
Go to different cities.
Do we go to different cities? Yes, we can go to different cities. We work for the city that we work for. So for example, I work in San Ramon, right? But if I have a case where I have a suspect, let's say a bad guy, and he lives in Sacramento, I can I can author a search warrant and have a judge sign it, and if he agrees with what I write in my search warrant, he will give me permission to go to Sacramento and arrest that bad guy. So we can go to different cities to complete our investigation if we need to do that. The second thing is called mutual aid, okay? Let's say I'm a police officer in San Ramon, right? But then some big disaster happens in Dublin. Then Dublin police will start calling for mutual aid from its neighboring police departments. They'll get on the radio and say, we need officers to help us with this, you know, there's a BART crash or something like that, train crash, and they have a huge disaster in their town. They need assistance from neighboring cities. They will start calling for mutual aid. So I can end up in another city if that happens too, right? Okay, yes?
Do you find wanted people?
Do I find wanted people? I hope so, yeah. So let me give you an example, okay? Every time I stop a car, all right, or if I interact with a suspicious person, I ask them for their ID. Why do I ask them for their ID? I just want to know their name? I ask them for their ID so that I can positively identify the person that I'm speaking with and see if they're wanted, okay? They may look like a really nice person, okay? But it turns out they could be wanted for a very dangerous crime in this state or in another state. And if they're entered into the system as a wanted person, my dispatch will let me know, and then I will take precaution in dealing with them. Sometimes there are people who are very dangerous, but they look very nice. And you have to have a trained eye to be able to recognize the difference. Okay? It takes time. As you get older, you'll be able to also recognize danger. Okay? And this is something that takes a lot of practice and years of practice to really master. Okay? And we're always learning. Remember that. Just because I've been a police officer doesn't mean that I know everything. Every day I learn. And that's how, you guys should also think that every day you're learning. Yes? Your question?
Yeah. No, not a question. I'm saying something that you also do.
Okay, tell me what else I do.
Like when there's like a crash of cars, you like help see who started the crash.
You're right. Okay, so what he said was if there's a crash of cars, I will go there and determine who crashed the car. And that's a traffic investigation, right? It's a huge problem. Everybody sees cars pulled on the side of the road, right? You guys see it all the time? And everyone's going like this and driving by, right? Looking at them. We don't realize is that traffic accidents are actually like the #1 killer of not only police officers, but of also children in this country. Traffic accidents. It's something that everybody thinks is just not a big deal, but distracted driving, driving under the influence, these are problems that are affecting our society in a big way. So if you guys see your parents texting while driving, okay, or using a handheld device, tell them stop, okay? Because we don't want them to get into an accident and then put the phone away and say, oh, I don't know why the accident happened. It happens all the time, okay? Yes?
Sometimes they have to put their seatbelts on because if they like stop so abruptly, they might hit their head on the driving thingy.
Yes, that's correct.
Or if it breaks, it's gonna be safe. Like there's gonna be this big thing coming out.
Yes, you're right. Ali Reza just mentioned that you need to wear your seatbelts because if you don't, then you're putting yourself in great danger because your body will be projected forward or in different directions when in an accident. Yes? How many days off do I get? Not enough days. No, in reality, we work a pretty decent schedule. Typically, police officers have an option of 2 schedules, typically. Either you can work Monday through Thursday, that's 4 days, then you're off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and those shifts are about 9.5 hours to 10 hours. Or you can work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and those shifts are 12.5 hours. Now here's the catch. You work 3 days and you're off for 4 days. So you're off Monday through Thursday. That sounds great, right? 12.5 hours. What do you think, how is your Friday, Saturday, and Sunday going when you're wearing 30 pounds of equipment and dealing with bad guys? By the time you reach Sunday, your brain and your body is so exhausted. Monday, you can ask my wife, you're out of commission. You're not even, nobody talk to me, I don't want to do anything. Tuesday, you start feeling like a normal human. And by Wednesday, you're ready to get back in the gym and pursue your own personal activities. And then on Thursday, you got to take care of the kids all day because your wife is waiting for you to contribute during the week. So those 3 days, everybody thinks, oh, 4 days off. Yeah, you do have 4 days off. But during those 3 days, you are squeezing in a full work week. And not only that, but one that can be physically exhausting. And then on Monday through Thursday, you may be part of a special project or a search warrant execution, or you may have to testify in court, or there may be something going on Monday through Thursday that you're needed, so you have to come in and take care of that, because that's your assignment. It doesn't matter if you're off, sometimes you have to come in. Yes. Oh, Ismail, let me get him real quick. He was raising his hand earlier. Yes, what's your name? What's that? Asher, go ahead and tell me.
So what if the ID you're trying to read is written in like a different language you don't know?
If the ID that I'm trying to read is in a different language, I just put it in Google Translate. It'll tell me, right? So, no, you're right. There are people who come from other countries and visit us, and they have IDs from their country, okay? And generally speaking, if the country they're coming from is a signatory of the Geneva Convention, then they're allowed to drive in our country. So we accept, and we have reciprocity with hundreds of countries that are signatories of that agreement from the 1950s. So there may be somebody from another country that has their driver's license in their language, and we have to do our best to try to determine whether it's a legitimate driver's license. And if it is, as a courtesy, we accept that they have the right to drive, because we, as Americans, have a right to drive in their country. Okay, so we'll do our best. We have a manual. I think the DMV kind of publishes a guide for law enforcement officers to try to determine the difference between a fake driver's license and a real one from a foreign country. Yes?
So how do you see if a person is not wearing a seatbelt, sometimes the police officer tells them to pull over. So how do you see that the person is not wearing their seatbelt inside the car? Because it seems kind of hard.
I think we have a future attorney right here. These are some tough questions, right? Yeah.
Do you have any community programs you're directly involved with the communities?
Yes, I'll get to that in a moment. Let me just answer the question real quick. So your question was, how do you make the observation? Is that what you're saying? How do you see that someone's not wearing their seatbelt?
Careful on your answer.
Right. So since I'm not, testifying in court, I can make some mistakes, you know what I mean? The reality is it's simple, okay? Police officers see everything. Just because you don't see them looking at you doesn't mean they don't see you. So I see everything everywhere I go. If I go into Starbucks and I buy coffee, I see everybody. I pay attention to everything, okay? Just because I'm not directly looking at him doesn't mean that I can't observe features about him that are of concern to me. Whether it's security features, safety features, behavioral, do you understand? Okay? We're trained to recognize that. So if there's a car that's stopped at a red light and I pull up right next to it, I may look over and see that he's clearly not wearing his seatbelt. Do you understand? And because we're so close to each other, I can confirm that he's not in fact wearing a seatbelt. Then I'll initiate a traffic stop him, and then I'll ask him, hey, are you wearing your seatbelt? And then you see people putting it on last minute, things like that. So there are multiple ways that you can determine with your own observation. You can do follow-up questioning. You can review your camera. There's multiple ways. But a good question, okay? Yes, Ismail.
You work for the state government.
Do I work for the state government? That's a good question. So I work for the city government, but the city government derives its police power from the state government. So ultimately, we work for the state government, but not directly, indirectly. Okay? The city is an entity that is certified to be a city by the county and the state. And it creates its own budget, it creates its own police force, its own fire department, its own school district, or it can be a member of another district by purchasing those services. In the city of San Ramon, we have our own internal police department. It was formed in 2007, and we derive our police powers directly from the California Constitution. So even though we don't work directly for the state of California, we are essentially state employees for certain purposes. Yes?
How many hours are you able to work extra?
How many hours are you able to work extra? Are you from like the pension division or something? That's a good question. So number one, like I said before, as needed. Okay, let me give you an example. If a 10.0 earthquake were to hit here, I would go on duty until further notice because I'm a disaster service worker, which means that when that disaster strikes within a certain area, we all get activated and we don't go home until things, meaning the major threats to life are diminished, okay? I'm a disaster service worker, firefighters are disaster service workers, certain paramedics are, certain doctors and nurses, and people with engineering backgrounds that work for government agencies, they would be disaster service workers. And they will, veterinarians, right? People who have training in specific areas, they would start working, and for example, me, it would just keep going until they said, maybe a week later they'll say, okay, things have calmed down, the recovery, the electrical grid is back up, the roads are open again, now you can go home and rest. Okay? General week to week, there's not a 10.0 earthquake going on, right? So let me give you an example. I may come to work one day, and I get off at 4:30. And right at 3:45, my sergeant calls me and said, hey, Rodriguez called in sick for the evening shift. You got to stay till 11 p.m. Then I call my wife and say, hey, I got to stay. And she's like, why do you always sign up for this overtime? That sound familiar? But the reality is that somebody else is ill. We have to fill his position because we have a mandate to have a minimum of 5 or 6 or 7 police officers running the city at any given point. We can never fall below that number. Okay? All right. Yes?
If a car is going really fast, do you give them reminders?
Do I give them what?
Reminders?
Okay, so the question is, if a car is going really fast, do I give them reminders? Meaning, instead of giving them a citation, can I just simply give them a reminder? Is that the question? Okay, good question, all right? And make sure you ask that to an officer when they stop your parents, okay? So the answer is yes, we can do that. Observing a traffic-related violation, stopping a car, and then the action that happens afterwards is up to us in most cases. That's for traffic. We can, at our discretion, we can choose to issue a citation or we cannot issue a citation. We just have to be able to justify either decision. Every decision you make as a police officer, you have to be able to clearly explain why you did something or you didn't do something. There is no way to get out of not being able to explain. Okay, so if I use force against somebody, I have to be able to explain it. If I give somebody a ride home, I have to be able to explain it. If I arrest somebody, don't arrest somebody, interview somebody, everything has to have a legal justification. Okay? So if I give somebody a warning, maybe we'll have a conversation about the violation, about my observations. I'll look up their history. Then I'll take the total circumstances and the feeling that I get from that person and say, okay, I'm not going to issue you a citation. Okay? Yes?
What's the most dangerous situation you've ever been in?
Oh man, that's a tricky question. The question is, what's the most dangerous situation that I have ever been in? There are so many, unfortunately, and the most dangerous situation that I personally have been in is confronting somebody with my firearm, pointing it at them, and possibly having to shoot them if they don't listen to my instructions. So they put me and themselves in basically in lethal danger. Sometimes these people are intoxicated and they may not understand the command. Sometimes these people want me to do that so that they can end their life. And you have to be very careful if you are going to go down that path, or if you're going to wait and show restraint and try to use your verbal communication skills to talk this person out of taking that action. But this is a very common occurrence, unfortunately. I would say that's the most dangerous.
Have you shot anyone yet?
The question is, have I shot anyone yet? No, thank God. No, I have not. And that's not something, I think probably the worst thing that any police officer thinks about is having to shoot someone. Because once you go down that road, it can change you as a person. It's emotionally difficult to deal with. Legally, there's issues. We carry these weapons. Let me ask you this. Why do you think we carry these weapons? Do you think we randomly just, hey, I like this gun, I like this, Yes?
So that in case you need to shoot someone, then you can just shoot them.
Okay, the answer was, in case I need to shoot someone, I can shoot them. Although you're actually right, sort of, but let me rephrase that, okay? In order to defend myself, okay? When I put this badge on, and I would drive this police car, and I go out there and I do my job, you guys all think that's cool, right? You guys like me? Does anybody want to hurt me?
No.
Okay.
They all like you.
That's because you're all normal, good people. There's other people in our community who don't like me. And they don't like the job that I do. And they don't like it when I tell them not to do drugs, or not to sell drugs, or not to commit crimes, or not to steal things, or not to beat their husband or wife. Those people don't like it when I stop them and ask them questions and hold them accountable. They may want to hurt me. So everything that I have, including this vest and this knife and gloves and all this protective equipment, this firearm, is meant so that I can defend myself if I need to against those people. It's not to use it against regular people who are just normal and living their lives just normally and peacefully, okay?
What made you to join the police department? Why did you join it?
That's a very good question, and that's something that I think about very frequently. Why did I want to join the police department? Well, like most young people, I grew up and I thought it was the coolest job in the world. And it is the coolest job in the world. However, the main motivator behind it, because there's lots of cool jobs, the main motivator behind it is that police officers, their level of training and their ability to influence other people's lives are higher than most people. Okay? You have the ability to change somebody's life just by talking to them. Even the bad guys that we've arrested sometimes tell us that they'll come back a year later and say, hey, you remember me, officer? I said, no. Should I? And they say, yeah, you arrested me for this and this thing. And they look totally different. On the day of the arrest, they just look like so messed up, but now they've changed their life. You can change the direction of somebody's life even by arresting them. Or maybe I can come help somebody, right? Maybe somebody was having a heart attack and I came there and hooked up the defibrillator and jump-started their heart. Or maybe a child was drowning and we took medical action to help them. I mean, there's so many ways. I don't even remember how many lives I've changed. I stopped counting. When I first started, I thought it was cool. Oh, I helped this person, I helped this person. Now you don't remember. It's kind of like Milana's job. You go and help people and you don't keep track anymore. And I think that was the main motivator to become a police officer. Yes, Rayan.
What's
What's that? The question is, can children get arrested? Rehan, where is your mom? Did she tell you that? Huh? Okay. So here's how it works in the state of California and in most states, okay? If a child, there's different age groups. There's under 18, you're a juvenile. Under 16, you're like, super juvenile. If you're like under 10 or 5, you can't get arrested. Don't worry, okay? You're not gonna get arrested. We have to determine if you know the difference between right and wrong. Do you understand? Now, whenever my son Amir does something like colors on the wall or something at home, I have to determine whether he knows the difference between right or wrong. And I have to establish that early before I can go to the next step. Because if he doesn't know the difference between right and wrong, perhaps in the state's eyes I can't hold him accountable. But I can still hold them accountable in my own house because I have my own set of laws, right? So the question is, can a child get arrested? Under normal circumstances, no. But the state will want to take some kind of action to make sure that a child involved in a crime, committing a crime, their behavior is corrected, whether it's some kind of therapy or some kind of, training, psychological, or child services, you know what I mean? But generally, no, a child will not be arrested. We will try to take every other, action other than arresting a child, okay? Children generally do not get arrested. Yes?
When did you get your job at the police department?
When did I get my job? This specific job with the San Ramon Police Department, I got in 2016. Before that, I was a police officer in San Francisco with the SFPD, and I did that for about 2 years. And then before that, I was a police officer in New Jersey. So total time as a police officer is about 10 years. And during that 10 years, I have more now white hair on my beard and my head than ever before. And so I would imagine the next 10 years, this is probably gonna, quadruple, the amount of white hair. And then the last 10 years, when I hit my 30th year, my head will probably be completely white, if the hair is still there. Yes, sister. Who's that?
Oh,
yes, sister.
I was wondering how being a Muslim informs your work.
Okay, so how does being a Muslim affect, for example, my outlook on this job, right? All right, good question. So do you guys think that being a Muslim has any kind of, do you think I'm different than any other police officer? No? Okay. Do you think I have an advantage over other police officers who are not Muslim?
Yeah.
All right, let me ask you a question. How many people here speak English? How many people here speak a language other than English? How many people here speak a language, more than one language, in addition to English? Do you see the advantage now? If you guys became police officers, you would have an advantage because you may be bilingual or trilingual, right? Yes?
You'll have an advantage because if you find a criminal and they speak a different language, you might know that language. So then you can, if there's criminals, you can talk to multiple of them because you know different languages. Because if they knew a language you knew and you also knew other languages, you can get more criminals.
Good answer. So what he said was, if we find a criminal and they speak a different language, I will be able to, determine that, right? Because I can speak that language. And that goes across the board. If your communication skills can extend to different cultures and languages, you're automatically at an advantage compared to for example, an officer who speaks only one language, right? If you have a background in certain cultures, you can enter a house and you can start an investigation and understand the cultural differences between, for example, normal Americans of European origin or people from Middle Eastern origin, right? We understand that people from Asian backgrounds, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Indian, Pakistani, Iranian, Middle Eastern, Arab, Afghani, everybody is different. The more knowledge you have and the more background that you have with specific cultures, the more advantage you have in performing your job. So as a Muslim, I feel that I have a huge advantage because when I go, I see things differently from the officer next to me. Now I don't know if that's how you meant your question, or did you mean how does it affect me as an officer?
Yeah, what I would
is
say,
my experience different?
Because if I was to ask you as a descendant of South Asian parents, how does that inform your work?
Right.
That's a different issue. But
Yes.
as a Muslim,
Right.
how does that inform you?
Right. So as a Muslim, let me tell you, there's a couple of ways. I never really looked at it that way, but ultimately, I think that all Muslims, I think we were brought up to do good work in the community, right? I don't think anybody's parents said, hey, go grow up and make a lot of money and be a bad person. I think they said, go up and do something honorable and something where you help people. So ultimately, part of the reason why I did this is motivated by the fact that I'm a Muslim. I believe in God, and I want to do good work. This is how I do it. And I'm in a unique position to do it because I saw that there were no Muslim police officers. There were no South Asians or Middle Eastern people in the law enforcement community. So if I step up and do that, I can be the bridge between, for example, the American community and my cultural community. And guess what? For the past 10 years, that is pretty much what I've been. I've been the bridge because I can navigate both communities quite well. And I have the temperament and the patience to be able to translate some cultural things from one to the other, which is especially helpful in a criminal investigation or abuse investigations, things like that. So, and every day we run into cultural roadblocks. You got to have the right person who can navigate around them and still get the job done. And that's what that's what my chief wants. That's what we as a community want, right? Wouldn't it feel awful if every police officer in your community just didn't understand, like, where's Pakistan? If they were like that, that would be kind of strange, right? I kind of want police officers, I want from every background, and police officers who are familiar with my background, right? That's what I want in my community. That's what I would consider ideal. Okay? Yes, what's your question?
The last question.
Have I ever what?
Tasered.
Okay, the question is, have I ever tasered someone? Okay, so I guess you can see this big yellow thing right here. Everybody see that right here? Okay, this is called a conducted electrical weapon, or, a taser is the name of the company, okay? What it does, you guys know what it does? Everybody thinks it knows. Okay, so everybody thinks it shocks you, which is sort of true. What it does is there's two prongs that, let's not get into the details, it's going to get a little gory, but basically what it does is when these weapons, the projectiles from these weapons, make contact with you, they send a circuit of electricity through your body to initiate neuromuscular incapacitation, which is your muscle, you are unable to control it with your brain. And it just locks up and you fall over. You can't hurt anybody, you can't stab anybody, you can't resist anybody. You get locked up and you fall over. Then the police come, they put you in handcuffs, and now you're under our control. It's just a weapon so that we don't have to use this weapon, the lethal weapon. We can use a non-lethal weapon to prevent you from using lethal force against us or another innocent victim. Okay?
The last question. Last question.
Can taser kill anyone?
No, taser has never killed anybody.
Even overuse of it?
Never. No, taser itself, there is no autopsy, nothing. If you have a heart attack while being tased, that's a different story. That's possible. That's possible any time. But the taser itself has never been concluded to kill anyone, as of today. Yes.
Last question.
Yes, long time. Yes, go ahead.
What if, like, somebody is from another country and they come to this country, they don't know the law, but it's the law in their country and they do it, but it's wrong? What happens? Do they get a warning, or does something else happen?
Okay, that's a good question. Question is, what if somebody comes here and does something that in their country would be legal or okay, but they're doing it here, okay? So, generally speaking, if you are living and working here in the U.S., you are subject to U.S. and California law. That's the way it works, okay? It doesn't matter if you come from a country where this was the case, you are expected to try to learn and understand. And people who come to this country and apply for citizenship or permanent residency, they're effectively agreeing, right? It's not just people just come over and they skip the airport and they just walk in. No, they come through a process where they apply through immigration, they become permanent residents, they eventually pursue citizenship, and they agree when they sign that we will follow the U.S. law and California state law, or whatever state they're going to. You can't hurt somebody and then say, well, in my country, that's allowed. For small, insignificant things, have I faced racism from my colleagues? Okay. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but I got lucky. I have not faced racism from my colleagues. It doesn't mean that there aren't other police officers from minority backgrounds that haven't, because they definitely have, or as far as my understanding is, they have faced challenges involving racism. But me, I got lucky. I have never had that problem. The first city that I worked for was Edison Township in New Jersey, which is my hometown. I was born and raised there, so they knew me growing up. So they knew as soon as Abbass joined the police department, they're like, that's Abbass. The second police department I went to was San Francisco, which is extremely diverse, ethnically. So it wasn't really a whole, an issue there. They've had minority police officers from their first days in the 1850s, Chinese and Japanese. I mean, they're very diverse. And now I'm here in San Ramon, where the police force is not extremely diverse, but the community is. And the commanding officers of the police department, they're trying their hardest to make it diverse. Unfortunately, it's not easy to find police officers from different ethnic backgrounds, but that's changing over the past 20 years. We're trying to make it as diverse as possible. And here in San Ramon, I haven't faced any racism. They welcomed me with open arms. They were familiar with my background, and they like having me work with them. And I get along with everybody. Okay?
The last question.
Last question. Yes, Ismail.
What happens if they speak, they're U.S. citizens, and they're born and raised there, and they're criminals, but they speak in a secret language?
Oh, the question was, what if they speak in a secret language and they commit crimes? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Well, I would say that either you try to understand their language, right? Or you use all the other evidence in the case to build a case that justifies their arrest. So we can conduct a criminal investigation even when we don't understand the language. You have to remember, it's not just what people say, but rather all the evidence that you have, video footage, text message, you go to their house, you search their rooms, and you try to understand what their background was before they committed a crime. Okay, so there's multiple layers of an investigation. Language is just one part. Okay. All right, listen, guys. Let's hold off on the questions because we have a few more things that we need to do. I'm going to take you guys outside in a few minutes and show you the police car. Okay, but let me ask you guys something, right? So, you guys are familiar with police officers, right? Okay? And you see all the different things that we talked about today. We talked a little bit about science, right? We talked about community, about relationships, about languages. Do you see how many different ways and how many different things a police officer needs to keep updated with? It's not just I walk in and I just do one or two things. I have to keep myself informed about everything, okay? And like the sister said about being a Muslim, let me give you an example. I was just telling Doc Saab over there earlier that one of our police canines died today. Yeah, it didn't die because it got hit or anything. It died because they had to take the dog, and today they had to, at the vet's office, unfortunately, in Santa Monica, they had to put it down because it had cancer. Now, this dog is a beautiful dog, let me tell you, okay? And this dog has the ability, sometimes in our culture we can be a little confused about dogs, okay? But let me tell you something about dogs. Let me tell you something about God, and let me tell you something about police work. This dog, if you got lost in the woods or kidnapped or something, we can take your undershirt or your socks or something, and we can take a skin cell sample and give it to the dog to smell, and it can track you for miles. How many miles, Doc Saab?
200 miles.
Up to 100 miles. So you tell me, who gave the dog that ability?
Allah.
And who gave the dog the ability, who gave the human the ability to train the dog and build that relationship of trust? Where the dog is completely listening to what the human is saying. The dog can just walk away and say, I'm not going to listen to this guy, right? The connection between the dog and the human and the abilities of the human to harness the talent of the dog, this is all from above. And ultimately, that's who I work for, right? So understand that we work for cities and communities and all that, but everything goes back to a higher boss. Okay? And when you open your eyes fully open, and you pay attention and use the power of observation, all around you, all roads lead back to there. But you have to be able to see it. Okay? Understand one thing. You see this badge right here? Everybody see this? Everybody see this belt right here? 30 pounds that I'm wearing? And everybody saw the police car? Did everybody see the police car? Okay. Amir and Issa right here, they asked me, can you bring this? Can you bring that? The police car, the firearm, the badge, the uniform. This is not mine. It's been given to me so I can perform my job. It doesn't belong to me. I'm not the owner of it. It belongs to the government. And they picked me and trusted me to do my job. The same way you guys have a body, and you don't own the body. It was given to you. So take care of it and do the right thing with it. Because if you do the wrong thing with it, you'll see how that will start affecting your family, then eventually your community, then eventually the larger community, then eventually your country and society. Okay, so don't neglect it. Don't forget that there is always a bigger picture to everything. We forget that. So this is mine. None of this is mine. Just the way they gave it to me, they can take it back if I mess up and I abuse it. But I don't do that. I do a good job. So they keep me and they like me and they keep rewarding me and saying thank you, and they're very appreciative of me. They've always taken care of me, and alhamdulillah, I've remained safe in this job so far. I got like another maybe 20 years to go, maybe not 20, maybe 15 I'll do. And inshallah I will remain safe during that time. Okay? Thank you very much for your questions. Listen, I'm very, very, very happy that you guys asked so many questions, because sometimes I go to some schools and all I get is like 1 or 2 questions. Everybody's so shy and maybe they're still waking up. I don't know. I mean, but you guys are extremely intelligent kids, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you guys and seeing you guys grow up. Listen to your parents and listen to your elders, okay? And inshallah, you guys will be successful.
Wow. Salawat. Loud salawat for Officer Abbass Hussain. Thank you very much for providing a great insight on the police department. You remember at the earlier I said the police officers are smart, mashallah. A lot of new things to learn today. I will request our resident scholar, Maulana Sayyid Hadi Yassin, and to come in the front. Thank you.
Only 3 minutes because we have to go catch something else. One of the most important recommendations of Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to appreciate others who do good for you, okay? Including your family, including your teachers, including whoever in the community that would help you. I know that I always wanted, and I still want, seriously, and I still wanted, to stop a police officer and then say, I just thank you so much. Seriously, just myself, personally. I've read, I have studied, I know that one of the most stressful jobs among all jobs is to be a police officer. It's very, very highly risky, job that we have in this situation. Every day, I don't want to make it so emotional, but they go out, they're facing dangers, okay? And that is only for one sake, to keep us safe. They put themselves in risk and danger for the sake of the community, right? Allah says in the hadith, if you don't appreciate others, indeed you didn't appreciate me. This is the hadith. If you don't appreciate your parents, doesn't matter how many times you say alhamdulillah. If you don't appreciate your teachers, doesn't matter. If you don't appreciate what Allah gave, if you don't appreciate officers that they put themselves in the front line to keep us safe, indeed, how do you want to say they appreciate Allah? And because of what? Here's the reason. And Officer Abbass said very nicely, said that he said, what we have is from who? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If they are there, is that Allah wanted, alhamdulillah, for us to be safe by their presence. So let's all together, out loud, first say, thank you, police officers.
Thank you, police officers.
It was not that loud. I think some of them, they didn't want to thank, Let's say out loud again, thank you, police officers.
Thank you, police officers.
Specifically, thank you, Officer Abbass.
Thank you, Officer Abbass.
Very good. May Allah, inshallah, keep you safe all the time. We are so proud of having you as a Muslim brother in the police department. It's an honor for us, alhamdulillah. We respect all of them, specifically our brother. May Allah, inshallah, keep you always safe and your family. So as a very, small and mild token and appreciation, I want to give it to you. May Allah, inshallah, bless you all the time. Here's a challenge. Use it with your colleagues, inshallah. Later on, you see how you want to do it. Yeah. Alrighty. Thank you so much again, and we're going to join him, inshallah, for the next episode.